Thanks for joining us. You're watching the news in Africa and the world. But first, 16 civilians, 5 of them children, were killed overnight in a fresh massacre in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo province of Ituri, officials reported. The toll was separately confirmed by a source in the UN peacekeeping force, MONUSCO. The attack is said to have begun in a village in the area of Mimbisa, with authorities attributing it to a notorious ethnic militia called the Cooperative for the Development of Congo, CODECO. Nearly 300 civilians have been killed since the start of the year in attacks blamed on them. In Lesotho, the wife of former Prime Minister Thomas Thabane, who was charged with killing her husband's first wife, is back in prison after a judge revoked her bail last week pending a June 16 hearing. Masaya Thabane, 43-year-old, was formally charged with murder on February after police reported her involvement in the brutal killing of Lipolelo Thabane 2 days before his inauguration. Masaya's current legal challenge marks her second stint in prison. On Wednesday, she arrived at the magistrate court in Maseru under the escort of an police officer. The magistrate told her she will be taken to the female correctional facility and report back on June 16, 2020 to find out the progress of her case. A French court has approved the deportation of Rwandan genocide suspect Félicien Kabuga to a United Nations tribunal, but Kabuga's lawyers have asked another court to examine the decision, meaning that he will remain in France for at least 10 days and possibly months because of his advanced age, poor health, and impartiality from the International Court. Accused of financing the 1994 genocide, Kabuga had asked for a trial in France and can still appeal the decision to hand him over to the Mechanism for International Criminal Tribunals. Described as Africa's most wanted man, he was arrested on May 16 at his home outside Paris, where he had been living under false identity. Focusing now in the world Health Organization is resuming its trial of hydroxychloroquine after the Lancet cast doubt over a large-scale study it published last month that led to temporary suspension of testing of the drug. The Data Safely Monitoring Board decided there was no reason to discontinue the international trial after reviewing available data on the drug. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said in a press conference at the agency's headquarters in Geneva. The observational study looked at records for 96,000 patients and concluded that treatment with hydroxychloroquine, an anti-malarial, showed no benefit in the treatment of COVID-19 and even increased the likelihood of patients dying in hospitals. Mr. Tedros, in reaction, said the safety board will continue to closely monitor the safety of all therapeutics being tested in its trial, which involved more than 3,500 patients across the 35 countries. Lufthansa has announced a major restructuring to absorb the shock caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The German airline plans drastic cuts in staff and the sale of secondary assets to repay a €9 billion aid package and absorb abysmal losses. To this, Lufthansa plans to reduce investment, renegotiate aircraft deliveries with Airbus and Boeing, and most importantly, reduce staff costs. According to figures released on Wednesday, losses are estimated at €2.1 billion in the first quarter. The only prospect available today is that of a low recovery. 2,000 flights per week will be provided in June, and for the month of September, the group will rely on 40% of their connections planned before the crisis. Over Over to the U.S., prosecutors charged 3 more police officers in the death of George Floyd and filed a new tougher charge against the officer at the center of the case, delivering a victory to protesters who have filled the streets coast from coast to fight police brutality and racial injustice. The charge against Derek Chauvin has been evaluated to second-degree murder. Announcing the new charges, Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison said that they were in the interest of justice. The other 3 former officers who were involved faced charges of aiding and abetting murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. The new charge on Chauvin can carry a sentence of up to 40 years, 15 years longer than the maximum sentence of third-degree murder, according to court documents. And in the same case, President Donald Trump is facing mounting criticism over his plan to send the military to quell protests that have rocked the country for more than a week. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper said he opposes invoking the Insurrection Act to deploy troops on U.S. soil, while his predecessor, Jim Mattis, also criticized the president's response to the violent protest so far. Trump was trying to sow divisions. Protesters have remained undeterred by curfews and the presence of the U.S. National Guard in some cities. More than 10,000 people are reported to have been arrested in the protest across the U.S. That's it. Thank you for choosing the news to be informed in Africa and the world. Until we meet, do take care and stay safe.